Hey, welcome to the Exchange Podcast today. I'm Kevin Warmhold, and today I'm joined by a wonderful guest, Dr. Marissa, aka she's called the Asian Oprah. She is a corporate psychologist, a motivational speaker, a life balance coach, and author of the best-selling book, 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Marissa. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Going to take a little quick video here. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Looking forward to this conversation with Kevin Warmhold, and he's going to be on, he's putting me on the air sometime, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that we finally got to connect, and Good for you for doing what you're doing on the East Coast.
Yes, we've been trying to connect for some time, and we are both very busy with our schedules. And I was sick a couple of weeks ago, so thank you for being patient with me.
Of course.
So tell my audience a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today.
So let's see. By education, I have a PhD in organizational psychology, which is the study of business and psychology and putting them together. So I get to work with corporations on things like human dynamics at work, power, politics, miscommunication, and conflict, things that I'm sure never happen on the East Coast, only happen on the West Coast, but it's a fascinating field. So I get to do things like problem solving, strategic planning, vision and valuing in organizations, valuing diversity, why can't we just get along, motivation, leadership, executive coaching, which is, I say it's working with technically brilliant, emotionally challenged leaders, and working on happiness, basically more joy and less stress at work.
And this led to you writing a best-selling novel, which has been doing phenomenal. And I want to read a little bit, a little feedback that's been given on your novel from Dawn Wells. She's an actress and an author. And she wrote, "People always ask me how I've managed to stay ageless since my role as Marion on Gilligan's Island. And it's really not a big secret. I credit a positive attitude and a vision for happiness, which is why I adore Dr. Marissa's book, 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are, captures an essence of what it takes to live in happiness 88% of the time. It's not only inspirational, it's motivational, practical, and perfect to have, especially if you never ever get stuck on a desert island." And she mentions this 88% of the time. And I've seen in your videos in the past, you mentioned 88%. Explain a little bit about what that means.
Sure. So if I tell you you can be 100% happy, I'd be lying. Because as human beings, the only time that we're 100% happy is when we're dead. And I don't want to advocate that yet because we're here on Earth. And I know I look Swedish, but I'm actually Chinese. And in Chinese, 8 is a homonym or a homophone, depending on how you look at it, for good fortune. So 8 is ba and fa is good fortune. So I put a play on that and said, I want you to be 88% happy because it's double good fortune. It is your birthright to be happy 88% of the time. Not 100% of the time. We're not perfect. We're not going after perfection. We're going after most of the time. And that is a concept that is really, you know, with the tragic passing of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade and, you know, the highest numbers now of teen suicide, we know that happiness is really, it feels and seems like it's fleeting. It feels and seems like it's impossible. If you start the day with the news, and I encourage you not to, all the stories are similar, and it's all about the worst things that people do to each other, natural disaster, and something wrong with the government. So every single time, all around the world, it's always that 3, if it bleeds, it leads kind of story, so that as soon as you wake up, you're thinking about all the things that went wrong yesterday and who you need to get revenge on, or who said what, and how could they insult me, and what didn't get done, and how we need to do more, and I've got all these things I need to do. That's how we wake up. And then we turn on the news, and then it's like bad news, bad news, bad news, bad news. And then we have to drive to work, and there's more commuting and more cut-off drivers. And so angry, angry, angry. And then we get to work, and we're doing something, and we have negative interactions. No wonder people are not happy. That is the normal, grind. And no wonder people hate Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and they live for their weekends, which in the past may have worked, right? If you can live and be happy based on 2 days out of 7, okay, good for you. But I can't. I don't want that. I live 7 days a week until I die, and I want most of those days to be happy. And so that's why I started the podcast every Monday on Facebook called Monday is the New Friday with Dr. Marissa, because I want you to drink the Kool-Aid. It's my mission. I'm on a Happy 88 mission for 8 million more people to be happy 88% of the time over the next 8 years. And I know that's my job. And you mentioned that I went from, being an organizational psychologist to writing the book. And actually, I'm still doing the organizational psychology. And the book does not come out of, and I'm going to do a little commercial here. Here's the book. Does that look like me? The book does not come out of me as a psychologist telling you how to be happy. Instead, it's a book about how I was very, very unhappy. On the outside, I looked great. It doesn't look like I had a problem in the world. However, inside, I was a seething cauldron of bitterness from a childhood of abuse, and then grew away, left home, and then still in that anger and bitterness and sadness and resentment and unloving place to myself, I chose a man to take over that role. He was not physically abusive, but emotionally, and I picked him. And that's a normal thing that happens when you grow up damaged. And 7 out of 10 of us grow up damaged. And it's not because anyone's out to get us or our parents are horrible people. They just do what they know. And so they do the best that they can, but the dysfunction continues. And so here I am, in my professional prime, on the outside looking great, but on the inside so unhappy. So the book is written in terms of my own, what I use on myself, and exercises and tools to get me out of my unhappiness. And it works with my clients, and it's been working with a lot of people. I'm so grateful, because 7 out of 10 of us, the majority of us right now as Americans, grew up with childhood trauma of some kind. That's a big number, 7 out of 10. So if we're the majority, why the heck is the majority thinking there's something wrong with us? Why the heck do we think that we'll never catch up, and we'll never have it as good as the people who had a normal childhood? We'll never be good enough. We're never going to be worthy. That's BS. That's a belief system that keeps us unhappy. And I have one thing to say to people who keep saying, I have a right to be unhappy, or I'll be happy when, and the when never comes, or I'm the hardest person on myself. I'm a perfectionist. No one's harder on me than I am, and I just want to get it right because then I'll be loved. The only thing I have to say to you, 2 words. Look at me. Stop it. It's not working. So that's why I wrote this as a guidebook. So when you do the exercises that are inside, you will never hate yourself the same way again.
And I think it's great. And I encourage people to get your book and read about it. Breaking from the system of, like you discussed, 7 out of 10 people are
Yes.
have some sort of trauma. Thinking
Yes.
out of the system is difficult. In today's society, think about how complex and busy everybody is. Like you
Right.
said, you wake up, you get ready for work, you take your kids, there's constant challenges throughout the day, and not many people have the time to sit back and reflect on, like, okay, I need to, make myself get happy and relax a little bit. How is this achievable in our complex, crazy digital world that we live in?
Yeah, we're going to do it on you right now. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through the nose and release through the mouth. Ah, soft shoulders, soft elbows, soft knees. Another deep breath in through the nose. Now release all the stories and the drama, all the things we have to do, all the things that are not done. And one more deep breath in. Connecting with me through chi, eternal energy, the breath of life that connects us all, that ensures that our bodies are working even when we're not trying, that the planets didn't crash into each other at the middle of the night. Take one more deep breath in. And now gently open your eyes and just feel how it feels to be right here, right now, talking, listening, seeing, hearing, remembering the ability that we have to hug, the ability that we have to be in gratitude, the ability we have to compliment, the ability to just touch yourself right here in the heart. Just hold your heart right here and just take a breath and ask yourself, am I happy? Am I happy? Truly right now in this minute, without thinking about anyone or anything, am I happy?
I got a smile on my face.
Exactly. Exactly. And cute dimples there too. That took how many seconds?
Mm-hmm.
So if we, and I have clients, you know, they put on their alarm, top of the hour, no matter what you're doing, just stop. Push yourself away. Join my social media. I post, give yourself a break with Dr. Marissa, you know, whenever I can, and just stop. And just for that second, think about all the things that you have been able to accomplish. Like all the things that you've done today, all the things that you did yesterday, all the things that are good in your life. It's called, the tool is called Take a Bite of My Gratitude Sandwich. The quickest way to get happy, and answering your question, how do we achieve this? Well, we step out of the race, right? And we take a pause, we freeze frame where we are, and just start the day with 8 specific things that you are grateful for. So I'm going to play with you. You do 4, and I'm going to do 4. All right? And quickly, and you cannot say my friends and family, that's too general. Okay? So first thing is, I'm grateful that I was able to sell my Jaguar. You.
I'm grateful that I got up and exercised this morning.
I'm grateful that my daughter just called me and we got a little soundbite together before this interview.
I'm grateful I had a FaceTime with my kids just before this interview.
I'm grateful that I'm looking outside at this incredible view of the ocean and the sun is out and I'm solar powered, so that's a good thing.
I'm grateful that by this time next year, I will be in a better place.
I'm grateful that people are being helped by this book in terms of helping themselves find that they are loving, lovable, and loved.
And I'm grateful that we were finally able to get together and do this podcast.
There you go. 8 specific things that you're grateful for first thing in the morning before you start thinking about what you need to do. If you have to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. But then come back and do that 8 gratitudes. And then I like to meditate. Meditate is as simple as turning the mind off. So I just breathe and I watch my breath. I put my timer on for 15 minutes. And then all day, I look for things that are good. It's called FTG, Find the Good. So it's you're extending your gratitude. And at the end of the night, you are grateful for yourself. 8 specific things that you appreciate about yourself. So instead of saying, I'm glad that so-and-so is so-and-so, I will say, you know, I appreciate that I got this done. I appreciate that I have 88% good relationships with my daughters. I appreciate that I was kind to somebody. I appreciate that I didn't cut this person off. I appreciate that I didn't say what was on my mind to that person. I appreciate that I apologized to someone. I appreciate that I got a lot done today. I appreciate that I want what's best for everyone around me. So 8 specific, very carefully crafted appreciations about myself. And when you do that, you can sleep. We don't sleep. People have sleep problems because they're not happy. They're constantly thinking about what's wrong with the world and what's wrong with me and what isn't done or what can't be done, and the problems. No wonder we need sleep medication. But then the sleep medication gives you side effects. 7 out of 10 Americans are on anti-something on medicine. And I'm not, I'm not preaching against pharmaceuticals. I'm just saying that, no one talks about the side effects, the main effects. It's a temporary fix. And many people are taking anti stuff and they're still anti. So, and now they're suffering from side effects. So I'm always about the solution to your dis-ease with life is you. You're at the center of it. So let's work on you. The love that you've always looked for is here, is not there. So it's all about you. Not in the, I'm so full of myself, but we walk around, most of us, thinking we're a piece of shiitake. Almost everybody I know has that voice in their head that tells them they're not good enough. There's something wrong with them. And that dis-ease carries through the rest of everything. All your relationships, all your work, all your self-talk, all your everything. So let's start here. Let's work on this first.
I think a big contribution also to the overwhelming pressure that could be put on people today is social media. There's both benefits and, negative effects of social media. I mean, the positive effect is, look, we were able to connect and do something together, hopefully to improve and help people out and give them some guidance to go towards your book or listen to your story and help them with their lives. But then we have the effect that cyberbullying, cyber shaming, just the lack of face-to-face conversation, the overwhelming amount of information that people have access to at the tip of their finger.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that people how much time should people be spending on social media when you're trying to get through your day and where it's not overwhelming and it's not actually causing a negative effect on you?
Sure. Great question. The moment that it doesn't feel good, stop. Yeah. I have a rule. I have never, and I'm grateful for this, I have never, even when I'm really, really pissed off at someone or something or a product or service, I have never, ever put anything negative on my social media. And if everybody did that, we'd be really good. Now, the other thing is you are the boss of you, right? And yes, there are plenty of benefits to the connection, plenty of benefits for, finding out how people are doing and, but the only one who can control, there's no hard and fast rule. But when you're doing it, if you're affirming yourself, if you're affirming someone else, then do it. If you start getting in an argument with someone on social media, I have this little saying that I love. It's called step away from the device and just back up and quit, because all of that is a couple of things. One is you're trying to get someone to understand where you're coming from. And no one will ever 100% understand where you're coming from because you're unique in all of the ways that you're unique. We are all, there's 7.3 billion of us who are completely different. So trying to get anyone to get you and try to, agree with you is difficult. And why try? It doesn't matter. So here's the most important principle here is from a saying that I love. It's called, when there is no enemy inside, then no enemy outside can hurt you. So that's a profound way of saying sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me. But what happens is if you are sensitive and have a button to be pushed, then you're going to get your button pushed. But if I can say, when someone says something, that's interesting. Now, I'm sorry I have to go. That's interesting you see it that way. And I'm not the boss of how you think. I don't, it's not much. I had a guest on, Dr. Terry Cole Whitaker, who has a best-selling book, says, what you think of me is none of my business. And then I take that further and say, what I think of you is none of your business. Mm-hmm. So if we, if we lost that desire to be right, we would have peace on the earth, right? So if I can totally and fully say, it really doesn't matter what you think, it matters what I think. And if I think I am correct for me, that's all that matters. If you want to disagree with that, that is your prerogative and you're right. And this is hard. It's hard as parents. You think that the way to happiness for your children is this, this, and this. And I've had to learn that too. They're on their own path. Everybody is on their own path. Let them live their path. If they have to learn the hard way, learn the hard way. But there's blessings in everything, no matter what happens. When shift happens in my life, I say, Rah! For 16 seconds, less than 16 seconds, and then I say, I can't wait to see what good comes out of this. That's my discipline. And then boom, something good will happen. This book was born out of losing a $200,000 consulting project with a big company. And I remember I was in the garage, I had the unexecuted copy of the contract in my hand, and the phone rang, and the HR director said, sorry, your sponsoring executive just got laid off, so there is no project. And I'm like, oh, 16 seconds, that's the law of attraction. Don't want to do any more than 16 seconds or you'll draw more of the same to yourself. Jumped up and down, let out all that negative energy. And then I said, my discipline, a term from Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who wrote the foreword to the book, and he's my big brother. He taught me this. And I say, I can't wait to see what good comes out of this. And boom, the voice said, write. And I said, I don't have time to write. And the voice said, you do now. So I went upstairs. I wrote the first chapter out of loneliness into hope, the last chapter out of control into happiness. I literally wrote for 1 week, didn't get up from the chair. The next day, I got an email from LinkedIn, a message on LinkedIn saying, we follow motivational speakers. It was from a publication company. Are you writing anything? And I went, what? Now, long story short, 3 offers later, I went with the third publisher, Morgan James, out of New York. The beautiful thing about the book and that company is we contracted with Habitat for Humanity. So every time you buy a book, Habitat for Humanity also benefits. So it's a win-win. That's a great example of, you just don't know why bad things happen. And every time bad things happen, I promise something good will come out of it. You may not see it right away. It may take you a while to feel it, but it will happen.
I think that's a great example. Negative could always turn into a positive as long as we are able to collect ourselves and, get back to that positive mindset. Because when you have a positive mind thinking, obviously you make better decisions. So if you're always thinking negative, your decisions will be negative. And correct. I think with tech being an extension of people now, it's people sometimes forget that they're using this device and they allow their anger to get. Once you put it out there, it doesn't go anywhere. That's the thing, especially with like Twitter, and you put something on Twitter negative, it stays out there. Yes. And then that energy transfers to the thousands of people that see it on social media. And, the positive way of using social media is like LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, I just recently got back on about a month ago, and that's how we connected. And it really, that's a positive way of using the tech.
Yes. There's an important point you just raised there, and I want to make sure that it's nailed in. You cannot unring a bell. Mm-hmm. So you can say sorry from now until eternity, But if you've said something that is harmful, you cannot unring that bell. There's nothing that can erase it. So that's why I take a breath. I take a breath before every time I hit save draft. I have a draft folder so big, and I've never been sorry for not sending something in the heat of that moment. There's also another statistic that says, I think after every 10 seconds that you're angry, your IQ points drops a certain number. I can't remember exactly what it is, 8 or 9. So, but 42.7% of statistics are made up on the spot. That's even right. So, but I hate apologizing. So, if you're very active on social media, a great practice is after you've typed everything, before you hit that return bar, is just take the breath, walk, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, come back, reread that before you hit return.
And even I'm guilty of that. I'll see something on social media and I'm like, I get angry. I want to comment on it right away. And I have to do a better myself of stopping myself from doing so. And I have to admit that. And a lot of too many of us are in that position where we make those bad split second decisions.
Right. And another tool that I use for that exact occasion that you might want to adopt is, does it really matter? Mm-hmm. Does it really, like, in the whole scheme of things, is this exchange that's probably going to take another 15 minutes of my time that I'm never going to get back ever, does it really matter that much to do that? Does this person really matter that much? Does an audience of hundreds or thousands that are going to see this, does it really matter that much? And so that usually gets me to step away from my device.
That's a very good point. Because 9 times out of 10, it really isn't going to affect my life. And
exactly.
Basically a bunch of hot air put on keyboard.
Yes.
So I want to get a little bit to life balance. Okay. Yes. With our busy, schedules and how everybody's hustling, both parents in the household usually have to work in order to get by, especially here in New York and California. I'm sure it's the same way. Very hard to get by. You have to constantly work and drive. How important is diet when you're putting things into your body? And, from what I've seen, I watch a lot of documentaries on this, and you see the more sugar or the more, fast food that you put into your body, it actually has a real negative effect on your mind. Mm-hmm. So do you have any recommendations about diet when you're trying to get your life balance and put together?
Sure. Dieting is against my religion because I always gain more weight after a diet than when I started. So that's something that I kind of more recently have finally come to peace with. Mm-hmm. I get on my knees in the morning and I ask I'm not religious, but I am spiritual, and I call my God, my UPS man, my universal power source, who delivers every morning when I pray and meditate. And I just ask to guide my eating and to guide my my thinking around myself, my body image, and all that, because the reality is a lot of the unhappiness comes from self-hatred. Mm-hmm. Self-hatred in your soul, in your heart, and in your body. And so the one, if you love yourself, and again, the role of feelings, like, does it feel good to eat this? Like, it may feel good like right now, but does it feel good after I finish it? Or does it, swimming? I'm about to go through another hip replacement, and so swimming is like my only real way to do non-pain working out. And so when I travel a lot and I come back, I was like, I don't want to get back in the pool and then get back into that discipline. But when I finish, I feel so good. And so if I can talk to myself about, eating healthy and moving healthy, based on, I know it's going to feel good. Feeling good is such a misunderstood concept, because many of us who grew up in religion feeling good is a bad thing. You know, you don't want to feel too good, right? And you shouldn't feel too good, and that's BS again. If we allow ourselves in the connection of who we are, at the core of who we are, which is, you know, energetic beings that are on the planet for this particular dash of a time, and just connect with that feeling energy, you know, connect with that. Does this feel good? You know, compliments feel good. Doing nice feels good. Being loving feels good. Being loving to myself and my body and what I'm eating feels good. But it's, you know, it's, again, it is not something, it's a personal journey. We get into, because a war on anything never works. So all that war on obesity, a war on drugs, a war on all that. I'm a big law of attraction student. And so when you focus on something you don't want, it's just going to get worse. So if you say, you know, I hate this, or I can't eat this, or I can't do that, or, you know, there's too much processed food, blah, 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 blah. It's like, it just gets worse. And so if I'm cool with me and I do the best that I can, and yes, it's easier to, you know, go through a drive-through or something, but is that going to feel good in my body after? And it may. If it is, then great. But if it isn't, then, you know, you're the boss of you. You make those changes. You see how it feels to you.
Mm-hmm. And so I've noticed diet has had, you know, I try to just not put in that stuff I know is not good for me because I feel terrible afterwards. Right. I try to keep that in my mind, like, hey, don't eat that. You know how you feel after you're done. So, you know, I try to do the diet thing, and I also try to do to make myself feel more relaxed. Me personally, I need to exercise. Whenever I'm exercising, it's always something that kind of clears my mind, gets it ready for the day, especially if I do it first thing in the morning. And I've seen you, you do some exercising on the beach in the morning.
I do.
Is it Tai Chi?
Yes, it's a combination between Tai Chi, Qigong, and then a little bit of therapy. New thought. So I'm there, and I'm working with the energy in the ocean because water has a lot of energy. And I just use the forms to connect. So this one that you may have seen at the beginning of the movie Intern with Robert De Niro doing this move. This is traditionally pushing hands, and I recalled it opening doors because I'm consciously opening the connection between myself and the friendly universe, which is depicted in the ocean of abundance. And what happens is I'm consciously bringing all of that positive energy into me. And so that makes me feel good. And if you're in Southern California, you know, come to one of my classes Saturdays at 10 when I'm not traveling. And or you can get the DVD on my site, or you can, you know, get the download. It's just a 28-minute practice that helps you sort of clear. And it's especially good for people who cannot sit still for still meditation. Like if your head's going all too crazy, it's a great moving meditation to try.
And is that considered a somatic therapy? To clear your mind and just move your body and kind of get that positive energy inside. Yeah. You know, when you have a lot on your mind, you might want to do that to kind of get you going.
Yes. Yeah. For me, you know, thinkers are great, but they think too much. You know, I think, therefore I'm screwed. And you can have an opinion or think or heal or forgive. But if you haven't forgiven it in here or in, you know, in that soul connection, then you really haven't done anything. It also helps, like there's another move called polishing table. And if you see me doing that in the middle of the day, it means somebody pissed me off. And I need to just stop and bring that forgiveness, or bring that, you know, it really doesn't matter, to a body soul level. So yeah, somatic healing, somatic workouts are important.
And an important reason why I wanted to bring you on is we have a national mental health crisis. We have a homeless crisis, and a lot of that has to do with veterans that are returning with PTSD, and a lot of people with mental health issues. It's PTSD from anything. Doesn't have to just be from being deployed. Family, you know, growing up in your own household, there's a lot of traumatic experiences that you could have experienced which gave you the PTSD.
Right.
And We've also become a society that self-medicates. So as far as we also have high addiction rates, drugs, alcohol, and addictions used to cope with a lot of the mental health or PTSD issues.
Mhm.
What could be done to help alleviate some of that? I mean, we have a national problem. It's just not, New York,
Yeah,
California. It's everywhere.
yeah.
How do we help, fellow people, Americans, get out of that?
Right. So the first thing I'd like to reframe, and instead of calling it a problem or a crisis,
Hmm.
everything's an opportunity.
Okay.
So one of the things that I spoke about earlier was if we're the majority, if 7 out of 10 of us have gone through childhood trauma of some kind, then, there's got to be a role for pain,
Hmm.
right? Otherwise, it'll be only happen to the minority of us. So pain has to be seen in a completely different way if we're going to heal from it. So if we continue to see PTSD or childhood trauma or any kind of trauma or anything negative as something negative, it stays in that pocket of there's something wrong with you.
So you're talking about stigma and labeling as a.
I'm talking about the way you see your own pain. I'm
Mhm.
talking to the people who have had PS or are currently having PTSD.
Mhm.
As long as we stay in the model of there's something broken in you and we got to fix you, we will continue to have crises and problems. Until we can all embrace my truth of, for myself, that pain in life is mandatory, but suffering from it is optional.
Mm.
So I have gone through this whole process with myself that I know, and with my clients as a coach, I know this works. And again, if it works, it's not going to work for 100% of the people. But can you imagine a world, and Elizabeth Smart has this down, right? Instead of I had trauma, and now who's to blame and who's to shame, and it's unfair, and why did this happen to me, and how could this happen, and who needs to stop doing what, we will continue to proliferate this crisis.
Mhm.
Do you see the hook in there?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned, okay? Because we have to have compassion, okay? And we have to stop blaming. I'm so glad you asked this question,
Mhm.
because I just saw a movie that, and I don't do a lot of movie endorsements because everybody has a different taste, but The Last Full Measure has to be seen by every single person who is a veteran, because it honors the veteran in a way that we have not been able to do. So everybody, that's my prescription today, is go see that movie, whether you're a veteran or not. You have to see this movie. The second thing is if we can see, yes, it is not great that a lot of the homeless were let go, and 2 of the most important years of my life were as a psych aide to a program manager, where I got to work with 18 chronically mentally ill and schizophrenics and manic depressives. And it was like 2 most important years of my life, because I understood the fragility of the human mind. And unfortunately, and I'm not going to say, because I don't say, I don't throw anybody under the bus, but during one administration, almost all of the mental health hospitals were closed.
Mhm.
And so many of the homeless should not be on the streets because they just cannot get a job. They cannot help themselves. That's not the whole population, but that is a portion of the population. And for them, and for the people who have gone through PTSD from the war, I have something to say to you specifically, and I'm going to look you in the eye and say this, is that you are so special and unique in what you've gone through. And because of what you've gone through, because you've been chiseled by the pain of life, you have so much to offer, and you don't have to suffer anymore, because pain in life is mandatory, but suffering is optional. And now that you've gone through that, I know that I can speak and I can say to a child who's been put in a hospital from beating so bad that the parent had to be put away for a little while in a mental hospital. I can say to women who are going through a divorce, who are losing everything because of the divorce. I can say, I feel your pain, I know your pain, and I promise this will pass. I promise that if you do the work and you take the responsibility and you understand now what value you have to bring because of your pain, then we can shift the way we're approaching the crises of everything that's happening. If we can see this as an opportunity, every tragedy has an opportunity to bring us closer together. Every tragedy has an opportunity for us to use parts of our brain for problem solving that have never been used before. Every crisis and tragedy has the opportunity to bring us together, to help us understand that we are all in this together, that we can now, instead of fighting and you got to stop doing this and you can't grow that and you can't say that and you can't do that and there's got to be a law against this and it doesn't work. How many decades have we been trying to fight things and it doesn't work? Well-being abounds on this planet. The planets don't crash. Every grain of sand is different than the other. Every blade of grass is different than the other. Our bodies digest food without us telling it what to do. Planets don't crash. There's so much good, but because we have this habit of saying, wow, there's a problem here, and we got to get to the bottom of this and solve it. We got to find out who to blame, and we got to find out what to do to make sure this never happens again. We've missed it. We're missing it because we're not in the energy of the solution. We're in the energy of the problem. We cannot solve from there. So I tell people who are, well, how can you be happy when, the president is blah, blah, blah? Or how can you be happy when children are starving in Africa? Or how can you be happy when there's an AIDS epidemic? And I say, I can be happy because when I'm happy, I'm attracting solutions that can help, that make a difference where I can make a difference. I don't have the power or control to affect giant epidemics right now with the virus. I cannot do anything that is going to stop that virus. However, what I can do is stop feeding into the fear. What I can do is stop feeding into the racism towards Chinese people because of this happening. I can stop Googling all of the, symptoms and then look around and start, blaming or shaming people if they're sick. That's within my control.
Right.
If everybody maintained their hula hoop of happiness, we can make a difference. But it's got to start by stop sitting in social media spouting off about things you know nothing about. It's got to stop by, when tragedy happens on the TV, spending the next 24 hours in front of the TV waiting for critics and experts who don't know what happened talk about what happened, and then you getting on the phone and talking to people about what happened when you don't freaking know what happened. Tend to your own garden. Tend to your own relationships. Are you good with your neighbors? Are you good with your kids? Are you good with yourself? Starting with yourself. Do you hate yourself most of the time? Are you okay with yourself most of the time? Do you know how valuable you are? Do you approve of yourself? Do you love yourself? How do you expect other people to like you when you don't like yourself? So this is where the work starts. When we get to that place where we're okay with ourselves 88% of the time, we can do anything together and by ourselves.
I think the domino effect of if you could take care of yourself and be positive with you and people around you, that it would affect the people in a positive way. And then it just keeps going and going and going. And we have to turn off that TV maybe once in a while and stay off social media once in a while to allow that to.
TV.
Yeah.
I have no TV. I have no cable.
Yeah.
I'm on TV. I like being on TV because it's a wider audience to splatter more hope and happiness. But I practice that. My head is so clean most of the time. I try not to even talk on the phone because it really, on the phone, I listen to inspiring things. I want to be constantly awash with positive things. Don't comment. Do like my 21-day fast from complaining. I do that. I used to do it every month.
I was reading that up on you. I like it.
Yeah, it's so helpful because the bottom line, it's got nothing to do with anybody else. It's got to do with you. Are you cool with you? And if you're cool with you, then nothing else matters. And feeling good. Again, circling back to that. If it feels good, not for the moment, but if it feels good with no, ramifications, negative, you're not hurting somebody, that's your ticket. That's from Abraham Hicks' Law of Attraction. We are all geared, we are tooled with an internal navigation. It's called, does it feel good or it doesn't feel good? If it feels good, think it. If it feels good, do it. Whatever it is, our emotions are a wealth of guidance. When I say something negative to someone, it may feel good for a fraction of a second because I got them, but then I think about it afterwards and I feel bad. So then I got to clean it up and then I'm clean again. Every time we go to sleep and we wake up, we're clean. We hit the reset. Now, what comes into our awareness, you have control of.
I want to wrap up with a thing that you still do, which is corporate psychology.
Yes.
So I guess that is dealing with the workplace environment, people who obviously it's very stressful to work, especially in the day and age where everybody works in a cubicle. It seems like, everyone's in an office type of environment and they have supervisors and then, sometimes partner managers, and there could be a toxic work environment. There could be bullying by your immediate supervisor because of their position that you take home with you. And I've seen it myself. It's sometimes you bring your work home with you and you just lash out. What do you do about like when you sit down with somebody and you help them?
Yeah. So that song "Can't Touch This."
Yeah.
So this is an hour-long answer possibility that you snuck that in at the very end, and I know it's for your wife. So a couple things. One is we spend more time at work than we do anywhere else. We have a choice every day. I can see it as a drag. I can see it as the problem sitting in a cubicle. I can see it as my boss sucks. I can see it as my coworkers suck. I can see it as the work sucks. I can see it as, everything used to be good and then so-and-so came and everything's bad. I have the choice. I have the prerogative. I have the power to go into my day every day thinking that same thing. Is it working for you? Are you having fun? Or I can go in every single day and say, well, I'm here right now and I have a choice. I can think about the things that make me happy, which is can't wait to get that paycheck. And there's lots of good things I'm going to get with that paycheck. And I'm really glad I have a paycheck because there's a lot of people out of work right now and I have a job. Number two, how can I make someone at work happy today? Because when they're happy, I'm happy. And I have that choice. Knowing that work, people think, I just got to get the job done. This isn't rocket science. Why is this such a big deal? Because they think that work is all task. The reality is Work is relationships and task. Relationship and task. And if you can't have a good relationship at work, you're going to have a crappy task. So how are my relationships at work? Now, it takes two to have that relationship. And if you hate the other person, then no matter what they're like, it ain't going to be a good relationship. So I tell all of my clients at work, if you're a leader, how good are your relationships with your peers, your supervisor? It's a 360 thing. If you got 88% good relationships, you're going to have a good day at work. But if you got crappy relationships all the way around, start with you. That's the only person I can start with. Because even when I come in and do an intervention or do any kind of coaching, I don't work with the problem. I work with the whole system. The whole system allowed whoever the problem child is to exist. So if everybody took responsibility for their own part in a relationship at work, whoever it is, you know, and the first thing you do is you have to find 8 specific things that you like about that person. And when my clients say, I can't do it without making it up, you're in the wrong job. If you cannot say 8 specific good things about that person, you're in the wrong job, because your relationships are going to screw up your tasks. So you're the only person that can find the 8 good things about that person. There can be 100 things wrong, but everybody has some good thing that they bring to the party. So when I, you know, as the organizational psychologist, when I can get people to look at their own hula hoop of relationships and how to improve those, then everything gets better. Because it's called, and you mentioned this earlier, the domino effect, I actually call it, it's my change management model is not, change doesn't happen from top down. It may happen from top down in an edict, you have to do this. It may happen for a short time, but long-term change is not going to happen, because people are going to stand up and say, screw you. They may not say it to your face, but they'll sabotage whatever you're trying to do somehow. So that's top down, doesn't work. Bottom up also doesn't work, because everybody won't agree with what needs to get done. You've got a plethora of opinions on how to get the job done. So bottom up doesn't work either. Strategic termite model of change is what I use, which says wherever there is good energy, where there is clarity, where there is understanding, where there is positive problem solving, where there is creativity, in that area can be any division. You can have a crappy company that you're working for, but if your own little work environment, you have good relationships with most of the people that you work with, you have great customer service because it shows in what you're able to do, that grows. Soon people go, they've got really good marks from customer service. They've got really good employee opinion marks. They've got, what are they doing there? That is, and you know, I'm so grateful that a lot of the time it's because they've worked with me. There's other consultants too, but I pride myself in my strategic model of change, where I get to work with people who want to be happier, who don't want to hate their job. And we go back and we look at, why was this division created in the first place? What are we here to do? What are we doing that is positive? What are we doing that is life affirming? What are we doing that is making customers' lives better? So when we are hooked into the meaning of why I'm here, the meaning of work, which is great relationships, supporting great tasks that add meaning to lives, then every day is a holiday.
Would you say that it's important for somebody who's in a supervisory role to have an understanding that if the people that work under them know that their work is has some sort of relevance to the success of what they're doing and of the company, that they would be better off? Because a lot of times you might get that supervisor that's there just to kind of crack the whip and get everybody working and just get it done. I don't want to hear nothing. And that is where I think a lot of people have a problem. It's like, why do I got to work for this person? It's just and you can't see the positive, but do you work with supervisors as well to say, listen, you guys, this is how you get a better employee force that they're going to want to work for you?
Yes. Yes. I do. And a couple of things. One, I can't make anyone think what they don't want to think. That's number one. Number two is it's a two-way street, because I have a lot of compassion for middle managers who all their life have worked under an A hole in the ground. And, you know, with the implicit understanding that when I got to their position, I was going to be able to be an A-hole in the ground too. But, you know, work has changed. And with my field, organizational psychology, we're now telling you can't do that, right? Emotional intelligence, all of that. It's not motivating. So on one hand, if I can understand where they're coming from and not say to them, you can't do this. Because as soon as I say to anybody, you can't do this, I'm going to get resistance. And they're going to say, well, you're not the boss of me. But if I can convince you to say, look, you're effective with a certain number of people. Do you want to have better relationships at work? Do you want to feel better about coming to work? Yes. Okay. Well, here are some ways that you might want to consider, because this will, you know, when people understand that they are part of a process that brings meaning, then they want to know. Everybody wants to know that, one, they're of a value, and two, that they make a difference. Everybody at work, that's the key to a well-run company, when everybody understands 88% of the time the meaning that they bring and that they're appreciated. But if you're a person that cannot appreciate yourself, it doesn't matter how many Employee of the Month awards you get. If you don't believe it, you got a problem. Right. So it's not just about them being told. It's a whole system thing. I got to be responsible for me and my happiness. You have to understand impact, intent, and impact. It's a whole thing. Now, the good news about the millennials and the shift in the millennials is the old rule of organizations where, you know, if you don't like what I'm saying, here's the door, right? And you have to respect me because I'm positional respect. I have the authority, you better respect me. And how dare you, you know, question me. So we have a whole generation now who's saying, screw that. I'm not gonna. So in that way, the good news is it's also shifting a norm that was not necessarily helpful. Now, maybe we've gone to the other extreme. I always say the good news about all of that is we're spawning more entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs are very highly correlated with creativity. So that's a good news. So, and again, I would challenge anyone who's constantly looking at the problem and saying, we've got a problem here, we've got a problem here, we've got a crisis here, we've got, you know, the world is falling. Einstein says, and I'll close with this because I know we're running out of time. Einstein says, the most important question that a human being has to answer is the universe friendly or not? If you say the universe is not friendly, your entire life is going to suck. You're going to be constantly holding your breath. Oh, this good thing happened, but the shoe's going to drop over here, or someone's going to take from me, or someone's going to steal from me. And oh my God, I'm going to get the virus, or oh my God, this is going to be bad. And oh my God, you know, tornadoes going. All life is horrible because you cannot relax into the well-being of life. Now, if you choose to say the universe is friendly and everything happens for my divine and best good, and you know, I can't wait to see what good comes out of this, and I don't understand this, but I know there's going to be a good reason for it. And right now, I'm just going to stay in the best feeling thought that I have. Then life becomes a joyride with so many stops that every day something will come true and surprise and delight you. I just bought a new car and the temporary plates have 88 in them. What are the chances of that? I mean, I had no idea. Or people that, you know, have been touched by the book or whatever the message is. I don't do it for those compliments. I do it because I know this is what I'm supposed to do, and it makes me feel good. And then I get compliments. It's just the icing. And criticism is just the icing. But I know beyond a shadow of doubt, I live in a friendly universe. The universe conspires for and never against me. And because of that, great things happen. And because of that, I feel good. And because I feel good, great things happen. And then here we are.
I love your positive energy. Just so you know, that's why I wanted to bring you on this podcast to get that energy out there to my listeners. Tell my listeners where they could follow you, find you, order your book, your websites.
Yes. So this is at all major bookstores. However, I would love for you to come to my website and order it there, because then I can give you a personalized, beloved, you are beautiful, you're incredible, love Dr. Marissa. And so that's online, and $20 will take care of shipping and handling and all that. And then Habitat for Humanity will also benefit. Audiobook is there as well. And then that's drmarissa.life. But if you Google Dr. Marissa, you'll find me pretty much everywhere. On Instagram, I'm Doc Balance, D-O-C Balance. And then Dr. Marissa everywhere else. And then my YouTube channel is a free subscribe, and you can get my past shows. The show's called Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Happy with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon. It's syndicated on iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, blah, blah, blah. And then, so subscribe for there. And also on there is my Red Carpet series, my interviews with Halle Berry, John Travolta, Quincy Jones. I just interviewed Richard Dreyfuss. So I have a lot of nice little red carpet interviews that you can enjoy too. So find me there. You know, if you want a free happy tip sheet, join my Happy 88 family, drmarissa.life. If you're on your cell phone, text 383. Never mind, I forgot the number. Just Google Dr. Marissa, and you'll find me there.
And Richard Dreyfuss is one of my favorite actors from back in the day. Yeah, I loved his What About Bob, and the one where he's at the horse track. I can't think of the name right now off the top of my head, but he's a great actor. So I want to thank you for coming on and getting this positive energy out there. Absolutely. And taking the time. And I highly recommend that they go to your website and order your book. I want to remind everybody that is listening, or if you're watching this on YouTube, I will provide in the show notes all the links to Dr. Marissa's websites will be in the show notes on YouTube. So you just got to click it. It'll direct you right there. And if you're listening to this on the audio on Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the podcast catchers that I am on, subscribe to the show, comment, and rate this episode. I will appreciate it. So thank you once again, Dr. Marissa, for coming on. It was a wonderful conversation, very positive. And I feel a lot better since we did that exercise.
Good. And
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Subscribe to the show, like it, and comment. Also, if you want the audio version because you're traveling, you're in the car, and you can't watch it, you don't have time to watch the episodes, you could go in the show notes. There is a link provided. Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, whatever your pleasure may be. Join me and listen via the audio versions on those other platforms, okay? But I really like YouTube. I like the way it's working out. And if you can, subscribe. The more subscribers, the better the content I can provide you. And it costs you nothing. So I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.